Hey everybody, Icy Cat here. We're going to be talking to you today about the technical test server changes. We discussed these yesterday, but now we've got some actual in-game play examples of what that looks like. Before we begin, just a real quick update regarding the PlayStation 4 update situation. No changes have officially been announced by Ubisoft or Sony yet regarding what's going on. It seems like Ubisoft doesn't think that their patch was what resulted in doing this. It just seemed like maybe some unfortunate timing regarding a system patch that came with the firmware update for the PlayStation side of things. I'll include the link for where Ubisoft stance is on this in the links below the video player so you can see everything that's up to date in that situation. They are recommending, if you do update to the newest version of Rainbow Six, that you make sure that you first update your most recent firmware for the PlayStation prior to doing so. They also say that some people have had success running through 3 to 5 of the friend invite request errors, and then after that the problem sometimes seems to smooth itself out, but that doesn't seem to be the case for everyone, so they're still investigating what exactly is happening here. Again, this affects PlayStation 4 users only. Okay, so let's take a look at the changes in the technical test server. So we are taking a look first at Blitz. His new change is that he can now sprint, and this will allow him to keep his shield up in front of him, keep the top half of his body fully protected. You'll also notice that his pistol comes in behind the shield, so his shooting arm is protected when he does that. He can't shoot while he sprints. If you try, he then stops his sprint and goes into his normal firing position. While sprinting, you can also engage the flash shield. It will immediately drop him out of the sprint and bring his pistol arm out. He is still a 1-speed, 3-armor operator, so when he's walking, he will still have that heavy armor movement speed, but now when he's sprinting, he's at least a little bit more protected instead of having that vulnerability he used to have when he was running. The big changes, though, are coming to Kapkan, so let's take a look at him. What they've done now is they've given him 5 of his traps instead of the previous 3, and they've removed the laser. When it goes up, you'll see it just for a second, and then it will disappear. The laser becomes invisible. They've also made Kapkan a 2-speed, 2-armor operator, so now he can move around the map faster and get his traps into position. However, the downside that comes to those buffs is the nerf that his gadget is no longer lethal. It will not one-shot kill somebody when they activate the trap. Instead, now it will only do 40 damage. Unfortunately, this puts him at a rather awkward position in line with the other trap operators. Frost traps are better because they do 10 more damage and they put somebody into a held down but not out state. Legion's mines may only do 10 damage initially, but they do also pick up an additional 8 points per few seconds afterward until the device is removed, preventing them from sprinting while doing so, leaving them vulnerable while they extract the dart, and those mines are completely invisible, plus he has 7 of them. Ella's mines may not be any trap damage, but she's not limited to where she can put them. She can toss them at doors and windows, but she can also put them anyplace else. So Kapkan kind of becomes a weak trap operator in comparison to all of the others. One advantage is that now when he places them on windows, they do actually serve a bit of a purpose. Before, putting them on windows was really kind of a useless waste. As soon as somebody would break the window open, they would see the obvious red laser there and they would know to shoot it out. This way, it's very easy to miss and go off. But again, you're only going to do 40 damage. Essentially, you're doing the same damage you would do if you hit somebody with 1 impact grenade. It would take running into 3 of Kapkan's current devices in order to get 1 kill if that character had not been injured in any other way. Now, if the character only has 40 health remaining or less, you can still get the kill on the detonation of the trap, but you have to depend on but that requires the attacker to already be in a fairly injured state for that to even happen. You can sort of use these like improvised motion sensors in a way if you can keep a line of sight on where they are or if you're listening for the detonation. However, once again, the comparison pales when you look at Legion. His mines are invisible and they do have an icon that shows up on Legion's HUD, so he knows which one went off and where. Kapkan doesn't get that. This is going to be a very controversial change. Some people really don't like the fact that his device was a one-shot kill. But on the other hand, this is going to be a device which really isn't going to result in anything but team assists for the most part. Both Blitz and Kapkan's changes are currently being tested, so on the technical test server, these are not the finalized changes that we will see coming. Additionally, we've seen some changes to the recoil profiles. Now, unfortunately, a very weird thing happened. I was unable to get anything out of this because when I was doing a custom match for this, I exited out, created a new custom match to try to look at recoil, and I wasn't able to set one up. In between those 2 modes, they had disabled custom games from the server. They hot patched the server and took custom games out. I did, however, get a chance to take a look at Buck's C8, and that one did have a nice vertical climb to it. Other weapons are going to have interesting shapes to their recoil. Some of them will have a slight C shape where it starts off kind of vertical and it climbs either to the left or the right. Others will have almost like a lightning bolt zigzag shape. This would be for like machine pistols like the SMG-11 or the Bearing 9. Most of the automatic weapons in the game are being affected by this new recoil distribution pattern though. And they say the reason that they're doing this is that they found that when they were taking a look at their weapons, there was actually a misalignment. And sometimes that would cause shots that you fired to be very far off from where your reticle was actually aiming versus where the shot actually went because of the parallax in perspective. That's the difference in translation between the foreground and the background of where something is in relation to each other. They said in most instances that was a very minute difference, but in other instances it could actually be noticeably far apart. They decided to do a rework on it all around. So now certain weapons are going to have certain patterns that will be easier to memorize for how to counter the recoil. This will be a lot easier to do on PC with a mouse since you can copy that movement a little better, but it's going to be a little trickier to pick up on a controller using joysticks to counter it, especially in some of those more complicated movements like the lightning bolt shape. They've sort of divided the weapons into different categories, so there will be some groupings that have one shape, maybe 6 or 7 weapons might have one shape, another 3 or 4 might have another shape. And there's a whole list of them that have been divided up like this. They say that shotguns, pistols, and DMRs, as well as some lower rate of fire SMGs have been excluded from the list because their recoil has not been reworked entirely. And they do make clear that these are not necessarily the final recoil patterns that will wind up making it into the game, they are just testing these at this time. For more information on that, you can take a look at the Rainbow Six dev blog. I have the link for that in the comments below the video player. Well, that wraps up today's look on the changes that are happening on the technical test server. And as soon as Ubisoft puts out any kind of an official announcement regarding the PS4 update, I will, of course, be sure to let you know. In the meantime, if you want to stay up to date on all the latest news and information for Rainbow Six, then please do like and subscribe. You can also follow me over at IcyCat25 on either Facebook or Twitter. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.